I would like to kick off our next Monetiser track with by introducing Brendan from Liftoff, a GameRefinery company. Sorry, GameRefinery, a Liftoff company. Got that the wrong way around, didn't I? And Brendan's going to be talking about live events and the multi-platform future.
So, one of the main competition areas for developers, big and small, is for player engagement. Live events are the real battlefield. We're all chasing the same audience. And then we need to think, well, what gets the players there? And then of course, what keeps them there? What we need for success here is not more firepower or not more content. What we need is intelligence. And we can go in with more intelligence so we can target our market to the right people at the right time. I'm going to share with you a couple of examples that'll give you, hopefully, a competitive edge, let's say, on this battlefield. Okay, a little bit, let's say, about GameRefinery. We work with all of the tier 1 developers worldwide and beyond. All of the data you see here is ours and it's all being used in live environments. And also, we're also mainly known, let's say, globally for mobile, for the insights, but we're also multi-platform. So now we're also tracking the top Xbox games, PlayStation games, Steam games, and stuff like that. And why? Well, it's because all of these games and all of these platforms all have live games. And obviously the number one, let's say, test lab, let's say, for live games, let's say, is mobile. I mean, it's one of the main things, let's say, that keeps, let's say, the games alive. Primarily, let's say, for the progression vectors, let's say, a monetization. But what's really interesting is that audiences are being trained to expect a lot more impactful, engaging content, and that's where we're seeing like a lot of, let's say, reduction, let's say, in usage or user time, let's say, in the bigger games, because they're mainly going, to mobile because it's a lot more engaging. So, the harsh reality is, if you don't have the right framework, you're really going to find it hard to make it, let's say, on the market. So what we can do is do what the Japanese say, which is it's okay to be heavily influenced by what's working. So we would advise, let's say, all developers, definitely do your market research, look at, let's say, what's, let's say, working on the market, and then optimize. What's also happening here is that audiences are being trained to expect a level of engagement. As one developer said, an empty game is like going from 3D movies, let's say, to silent movies. Yes, the frame of the experience is there, but there's no engagement. The entertainment, let's say, isn't there. It's going to be tougher and tougher, so we need to make sure that we're building the right event frameworks for the right audiences. HD, they're not on the same level as most mobile games, let's say, in terms of frameworks, but they're definitely starting to move there. Oops. For example, we give the example here, let's say, of this, let's say, big developer who recently owns now 80% of the mobile market since the acquisition, let's say, of Activision Blizzard King. And they all have, let's say, studios that are creating live service games. So even though many mobile developers would think, well, Microsoft and Xbox, that ecosystem, it's not actually going to be, let's say, a competitor of ours. But imagine xCloud powered touch-enabled games on phones, powered by best-in-class login bonuses, win streaks and stuff like that. That it's definitely going to be, let's say, something that's going to be there, let's say, in competition, let's say, for audiences' time. Because that's the main thing, is that the audience web is big. I guess this, as the panel was saying earlier as well, right? There are multiple different genres and there's multiple different, let's say, regions and different types and stuff like that. But then there is, let's say, that spread in audiences and stuff. So maybe I watch, Fallout, let's say, on Amazon Prime, and then suddenly I'm playing, let's say, Fallout Shelter, let's say, on mobile, and I'm playing, let's say, Fallout, let's say, on Xbox, let's say, as well. Completely different platforms and stuff, but audiences looking, for the same, let's say, experience. You also have to make sure, let's say, that your framework is attractive enough to engage and entertain the people, let's say, at the right time. We're always trying to optimize for the greatest chance of success. Many companies are doing it in a vacuum, but what developers will have to do is look for a wider set of data. Now, I'm definitely dating myself here, right? But there's a very famous, let's say, ad, let's say by Nike. I think goodness is about 25 years ago now. We have all of these soccer players going on this mission to get this football, and the reason why they're looking for it, and it's so special, is because it's rounder, right? And that was the whole point, was that when developers are talking about, let's say, their live event framework, is that how can we optimize? How can we make it even better? Just keep making it, let's say, rounder as much as possible. And that's the best live event structure. It's perfect for the right audience at the right time. But as we know, mobile gaming and even, let's say, gaming, let's say, live events, very much a moving target. All of these developers looking at, let's say, new opportunity spaces, let's say, and so on. I'll give you another example that you really do need to keep checking the space all the time. We need to start staying away from red oceans. Here's an example. This big developer who we were working with was wondering why at the start of the week, their whole player engagement, let's say, was very bleak. Well, their biggest rival had everything going on Monday, but they didn't realize, they just thought that they were just having that form of, let's say, framework. So, and the thing is, they had the same player base, even though it was, let's say, different genres. So they could have made great offers, they could have a great structure and so on, but it was just the wrong event framework at the wrong time. But they weren't aware of what was happening with their biggest competitor. So, and if they knew that, then they wouldn't have to go head to head. So big lesson here is, understand the opportunity space, see let's say what the competition is doing, and then either optimize or invert. Okay, so let's have a couple of insights. So we'll take you through a couple of examples from Puzzle and Midcore that I hope you find helpful. Puzzle games get a little bit short-shifted, which blows my mind because it's the biggest piece of business and it's the biggest genre in the whole games industry. One of the interesting things about it is that at the audience, it's predominantly female, right? Not, let's say, like 90-10 or whatever, right? But it skews, let's say, a little bit more. We all know, let's say, women enjoy gaming. They also like competition, right? But when it's framed the right way. They don't like toxicity. They don't want toxic competition and so on. And then if you're able to find the right event framework and you're able to keep that audience engaged, connected and enjoying the experience, when it's the biggest genre in, let's say, all of gaming, even talking, let's say, about PC, let's say, mobile, let's say, as well, that is a very, very powerful thing. But I guess what we need to do is we need to take a look what we really need to consider if we want to be competitive. Here's an aggregated view of live events that you need to have in your game to be competitive in the match 3 space, right? So there is an enormous amount, let's say, going on in these, be it, let's say, just from monetization, let's say your competitive things. This even runs, let's say, to 2 slides. That even going into, let's say, to different boosts and stuff like this. There's an awful lot happening here, much more, let's say, than people realize, let's say, especially in the casual space. But then, there's always constant new ideas, let's say, being generated, driving engagement, right? And one of the main things here is that competition events are something which is really rising up, let's say, in the casual match 3 space. Again, something which is sort of seen, let's say, where it's like more of a casual, even, let's say, dictionary definition, let's say, definition of casual, let's say, audience, let's say, predominantly female, let's say, as well. And they are spending a lot of time, let's say, on competitive, right? Guild PvPs is very much, let's say, a weekend thing. 40% of all match 3 games, let's say, have this feature now. Friday to Sunday cadence. And then they are also backed up by guild tasks, right? So always, let's say, not only do you have the events, but you always have new, let's say, tasks coming in all the time, keeping, let's say, the audience, let's say, engaged. And then, on the rest of the week, you have the competitive events, the 1v1s and stuff like that. Again, keeping it, let's say, fresh and so on, right? This is definitely, let's say, this is what it is, let's say, at the moment. Highly likely, I would say, let's say, next quarter it's going to be quite, let's say, different because, of course, the bigger, let's say, developers start, let's say, optimizing and, again, moving away, let's say, from, let's say, what it is, let's say, that the competition is doing. And also, in puzzle and casual players are very social as well, right? they compete, let's say, and cooperate, let's say, together. So let's take a look at a couple of social event, let's say, structures. So one of the newest interesting, let's say, social events is the partner events. You're seeing this, let's say, in all of the big ones. Let's say on the Monopoly Go, Royal Match, let's say, and so on. I got a couple of interesting, let's say, data points, let's say, on this. And these new metas keep the game fresh on a creative side and motivate players to come in and, let's say, play. That what we're hearing, let's say, from Scopely is that they're very happy to hear that, especially with the partner events, is that players say, I can play Monopoly Go and I can go and bake, let's say, with friends, right? They're also the most impactful event types, right? So anytime there's a partner event, let's say, going on, revenues, let's say, go up. In addition, and then what you'd see is they kind of, let's say, break up the week maybe a little bit as well, right? Again, you can use them, let's say, like as different, let's say, tentpole, let's say, events, let's say, inside and the event calendars. Dragon Nest, another one again, very similar to the same concept, let's say, of Monopoly Go. You can go and play Pinko, let's say, on it. And then the idea is that give something fresh away, let's say, from the core. That players that you can go and actually partner, let's say, with other, let's say, players, let's say, as well. Project Makeover did the same thing as well, by bringing in, let's say, camping with friends. This is just recently, let's say, added. Definitely the last, let's say, ones, let's say, to do it. We're going to be really interesting to see how they do, let's say, the event, let's say, framework. Are they going to, let's say, copy, let's say, one-to-one, let's say, what it is, let's say, that the others, let's say, are doing, let's say, as well. Okay, let's take a look at Midcore. Maybe look at a couple of different interesting examples, let's say, from here. Right, so no surprise, mainly a male audience, right? Definitely got a different attitude to competition. They want a lot more competition. Progression, let's say, definitely, let's say, one of the biggest, let's say, things, let's say, on it. If you look at all of the must-have events, let's say, in shooters, Battle Pass, let's say, for the customization, let's say, and expression, and then, of course, all of the other different, let's say, PvP modes, let's say, as well. But again, lots of PvP, but it's the interplay between these events. That's the key. They need to be able to support each other. So, mid-core players, they want to win, they want to level up, but they also want to have skins. I always joke, was it that the biggest fashion game on the market, let's say, at the moment, people think, oh, is it Project Makeover, was it the Kim Kardashian? It's like, no, it's Call of Duty Mobile, right? With the amount of skins and weapon skins and emotes and things like that, mid-core players love expressions, right? And then Call of Duty is the biggest fashion game, let's say, on the planet. As one of my team members said, Call of Duty has got the wardrobe bigger than Barbie. And then, but with that, the frameworks are all connected, and the key is the progression. Experience XP is king, but then you also got to keep the fashion going, let's say, as well, right? But if we go and take a look, let's say, about what the main war zone, let's say, on that is, it's really all the content. Now, this is what the last 2 weeks of Call of Duty Mobile look like. Just a huge amount, let's say, of limited time offers, right? And that's the other thing, right? Get the FOMO, let's say, on there, that you need to start coming in, you need to start, let's say, playing for the progression, let's say, for those skins, let's say, as well. And then one of the main, let's say, questions, let's say, on developers' minds is that there's another Call of Duty, let's say, on the market, let's say, as well, right? Call of Duty Warzone Mobile, where the progression, it has a shared progression between the HD version and the mobile, right? Definitely way, way behind, let's say, Call of Duty, let's say, mobile, let's say, in terms of, let's say, the revenue on the downloads. And then, if you take a look at the events details, let's say, between them, right? An enormous difference, right? And it's one of the reasons, let's say, why players are actually preferring to play your Call of Duty Mobile, because maybe I'll just go in and I'll play Warzone a little bit, I'll just kind of, let's say, grind a bit for my skins, but the real, let's say, enjoyment, let's say, comes, let's say, from playing, let's say, mobile. And the monetization model inside it, it's got let's say, the bundles and stuff like that, but it turns out, let's say, the motivator, let's say, for let's say, the mid-core players is they want, the gotchas and stuff like that, right? So, key takeaways is make sure you check what's working on the market. Very, very important. Don't work, let's say, in a vacuum. There are many huge companies with a lot of, let's say, clever people working out, let's say, different, let's say, and optimizing, let's say, event strategies. You can absolutely, let's say, be heavily influenced, let's say, by them. Give the market what it is that it wants. Look to all the genres, not just your direct competitors, right? A good example would be, if we have a casino game, we'll look to casual. It's the same audience, right? If you have an RPG game, look to see, let's say, what strategy games are doing. It's the same audience. They're already being exposed to all of these, right? You can always learn, let's say, from best of breed. I can't stress this highly enough. Start thinking of your live ops strategy like now. Even I know, let's say, in this region, there's a lot of, let's say, startups. People are looking, let's say, at new games and concepts. Concentrate on the live event strategy now, right? If you don't have the right framework, you're going to find it, let's say, really, really difficult, right? I know a lot of companies here are talking about, like, user acquisition and stuff like that. Yeah, incredibly important. But when you get them in, you want to keep them inside as well. That's the engagement, right? Very important. Incorporate social elements. Again, look to see, let's say, what are the best of breed social elements, which ones are the most, let's say, impactful at this time, and be heavily influenced, let's say, by them. And then interconnect events for further engagement. Very, very important as well, right? No event should be, let's say, like off by itself. It should all, let's say, be, let's say, connected, let's say, and supported, let's say, by other ones. So if I'm playing, let's say, a partner event, I should be, let's say, creating, let's say, or generating some currency that allows me to do something, let's say, in the core game, or if maybe there's a lull, let's say, in the core game, maybe there's a couple of other mini games, let's say, that I can play, that'll bring me back into the core, let's say, as well. And then, it's okay to reuse your resources, right, in different parts, let's say, of your games and event. So, like in the West, you will see that in February, right around Valentine's Day, a lot of the events, let's say, have a pink feeling. Directly after that, they'll turn green because of St. Patrick's Day. You're going to find, let's say, lots of orange and purple, let's say, for Halloween, white and red, let's say, for Christmas and stuff like that. You'll probably see that they're all reskins, but the most important thing is that they're the event structures that work. So that's a quick fire, let's say, for me. I think we got, let's say, 2 minutes left. I'm happy to answer any questions, let's say, from the audience.
Yeah, so we have a couple minutes. Probably would have time for one question. Does anyone have any questions in the audience? Come on, don't be shy. Craig, you've always got something interesting to say. Do you have a question, Craig? Or no? Oh, even Craig doesn't have a question. You might have a question. No, we don't have a question. Yeah, so, there's one over here, yeah.
Hi, this is Ali Al-Harbi from UMX Studio. We are a gaming company here. Actually, GameRefinery, it's really amazing. We read your articles, guys. So I'm interested if you guys do some research in this region yet or not.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I would say that every region definitely has its differences, right? But what I would definitely go to say is, or I definitely say for people to look at, if you look at all of, let's say, the top charts, a lot of, like, you're going to have your Monopoly goes here, right? You're going to have your Playrix games and stuff like that, right? If you look at, let's say, the top, let's say, 20, they are kind of, let's say, the same, let's say, all over, which again are, educating and training, let's say, the audience for their expectation. And then, of course, when you get out of that, then you get into, let's say, a lot more, let's say, specific regional stuff. Like as the previous panelists would say, maybe not a lot of gambling games over here, not a lot of casino and stuff like that, because of, let's say, regional, let's say, things and so on. But there's a different, other different types. I was on the plane over, I saw a lot of people playing cricket mobile games, let's say, on the plane, right? Definitely we didn't see that, let's say, a lot, let's say, in Northern Europe and stuff like that. But those are just, let's say, I would say, little flavors, let's say, and so on. Definitely look, what are the most popular ones, let's say, throughout, let's say, the world, right? And those are the ones that are influencing, let's say, like, the audience, let's say, expectation and so on.
Brilliant. Can we get a round of applause for Brendan, please?
Thank you for having me.